other animation things that come out in the 90s that become big. This is where anime comes in, but distribution gets kind of messy with anime at this time.
Because cocaine was easier to get than good dubbed anime.
He's right, especially back then in the 90s.
Dude, back in the 90s, yes, trying to find any kind of, like, man, even finding anything subtitled, like, finding anime in the 90s was just impossible. I feel pretty positive.
Absolutely a trip. Yeah, it was a lot of that, wasn't it? Where, like, your friend's older sibling pirated and downloaded onto a VHS an episode of something from some channel that had, like, 6 lines going through it. I mean, it's 100% how it was. I remember, like, the first time I saw anime at, like, Blockbuster. And I was like, what? Why? How is this here? Like, what is happening right now? Like they had, like, Ninja Scroll or something. And I was just like,
Blockbuster knows that anime exists?
What the hell is this?
Just a reminder, this is a spoiler-heavy podcast. Different series that require a spoiler warning will be in the description. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gaming Theater Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a brief history and animation series and films in the U.S. from Felix the Cat to 2023. Part 2. We already finished Part 1. If you are wondering about our thoughts and opinions on anything that happened before roughly about 1987, that's back in Part 1, which is back in Season 1, so enjoy that. Because right now we're in Season 2, and we're going to get started with this. Now, before I get started, I want to introduce us to the guests that are going to help me out and go through this subject today. I'm your host. My name is Leo. I'm the Geek Scorpio.
I'm Moontastical at your service, y'all.
I am Ben, aka El Penguin.
I am Liz, also known as Zombie Hand.
New season, new us. This is D and Dane.
I'm Kyle, also known as K-Bye.
With that, we're going to take a quick trip over to the magical merch booth. Here we are on a magical merch booth, and all we have is the number 2 going on. And this is just a quick celebration to all of our people who have stuck with us for this long and are now listening to Season 2. We have more things that are planned for us to go through, other podcast shows, other things that we're working on, and we hope to be able to entertain you a little bit while we do that. So thanks again for everyone who's been listening, and we'll see you with the rest of Season 2.
Love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that being said, let's get back to the show. So as we left off, in general, we were around 1985 to 87-ish. I think the last big thing we were talking about was TMNT. Now, at this point, we're still in the mid to late 80s. One of the biggest things that sort of happens in animation is that to kind of save costs and such, they do things that are adaptations to different franchises. So we have the real Ghostbusters, which was off the franchise of the movie The Ghostbusters. And then you also have...
Not those fake Ghostbusters.
Or a hilariously horrible one. There's like Rambo, turned down to be a children's cartoon.
Oh my.
Yes. Who could forget the child hero, Rambo?
I do it for the kids, you know?
But
wow.
Yeah, so with this, we're getting towards the late 80s. So cost effectiveness is sort of a thing that keeps happening. And then Disney comes back into play, and they play hard. At this point in time, they used an animation style called Xerox art. And it's called that because it's mostly used to make quick copies of animation artworks that have been drawn. You probably have seen this before, like, if you've ever watched, like, The Jungle Book has a dancing sequence in there that's done with King Louie. And then there is Robin Hood in the 70s, which has the exact same dancing sequence.
Oh yeah, they did that to like frame for frame. They just redid the bear's like coloring and gave him a hat.
Disney would never. You guys, they hand drew each cell frame by frame again, obviously.
They hand drew it once, and then they copy that hand drawing, and we're good for the rest of the time.
They used their Xerox machine That's where the name comes from.
Geek Scorpio, I've got some lawyers on the phone. They really want to talk to you. I don't know. They said they represent
Hey,
a
bro,
rat or something. I don't know.
Hey, bro, can I copy your work? Yeah, but don't make it obvious, though.
No, I got one. I got one. You better stop, Leo, or you're gonna get a love letter from Disney via cease and desist.
Who we love.
Who we
If you're
With all our-
listening
it's
to
like,
us,
Brought to you by the letters C and D.
we love the corporation that has been mentioned, and yes,
you open it up and there's a tiny animation of like Hannah Montana doing the Mickey Mouse thing, going,
You
"This
should
is
make a-
Disney. Cease and desist, please."
You should make a soundbite of Dane saying that or whatever it was that was like, that company would like to talk to you.
I like that. Yeah.
Oh,
The
man.
company that was just mentioned.
Oh, this is gonna be bad for Leo. Anywho, I'm going to do this and move on and ignore that problem. But actually, this does bring up a new point. See, at this point, this would be the start of what's been referred to as the Disney Renaissance. So let's touch the base on that. The Disney Renaissance sort of starts with The Little Mermaid doing so well in the box office, but also, even though it's using Xerox art, it's not reusing art. They hand drawn everything for that. And at this point, Disney has been slowly but surely. The reason why The Little Mermaid is one of the last Xerox art is because at that point they move on to computer animation to be put into the places, making it faster and easier for animation to go through. Many studios will actually do that. You just don't see it as often, or it's harder to tell.
Yeah, in Beauty and the Beast, in the when they're getting ready to dance in the ballroom, Belle and Beast are hand drawn, but the whole background is computer generated.
Mhm.
Or like computer animated.
Yeah, computer
CG
animated.
wasn't that good.
Computer
back
CG
then.
won't be good until later when they do Toy Story, right? Is the first fully CG feature film.
I think that Disney did.
Yeah.
how good was Toy Story though?
It's
So good. Toy Story 2 is better though.
Ooh,
Ooh. Shots
hot
fired.
take.
I have to agree with Liz. Toy Story 2 was better.
So what's funny is that during the Disney Renaissances, they have a lot of different Disney films that are both hits and misses. So not all just because it's a Renaissance doesn't mean everything is good. So, for example, one of the biggest movies that came out in that era was Aladdin, which was amazing, and at the time held the Guinness Book of World Record for the most sold VHS tape.
Like 500 of those were me.
That's a mood.
I'd watch it and then rewind it and then watch it and rewind it until the VHS wore out. And then my mom would have to buy it again. I did the same thing with Little Mermaid. And so I actually found, when I was cleaning out the garage once, or my stuff out of the garage, I actually found a sealed Little Mermaid VHS.
Oh, yo.
Dang.
And it didn't actually go for much because it wasn't the one with the penis on the cover.
Sure.
There are collectors that want various collectings on that.
I mean, it's limited now.
Oh, what is it? But yeah, and Aladdin was done so well. What was it? In most animation, isn't it they record the voice lines and voiceover first, then they animate things.
Yes, because they'd match the mouth movements to what's been recorded.
And the late great Robin Williams was so good at that, they just sort of let him run with the genie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not all of them were big hits. The Rescuers Down Under was the first movie that they integrated the majority of their film with computer graphic art, not CG. It did not perform well at all when it came out.
Do you know why?
Mostly it's because of when it came out. It was a bad time for it.
Yeah. It came out the same weekend as Home Alone.
Oh.
That's stiff competition.
Another movie that came out during the Disney Renaissance that performed poorly, though you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who's going to say that they don't love the movie, was Treasure Planet.
Oh, Treasure Planet's
hearts.
so good.
I have not seen it.
Yeah, that one actually was so like. Anyway, I could send you a whole video that talks about it, but it actually came out to very mediocre reviews and numbers.
sucked. It was such a good movie.
Yeah.
Because we didn't appreciate what we had at the time. Well, we did. Someone else clearly didn't.
That would have been The Mouse. They kept forcing it, the two creators, or the two people working on it, to do Beauty and the Beast. They did, I think they did Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. And then when they finally were, they were told to make a movie that was just like another golden hit, just another amazing one, that was like incredibly marketable. And they came out with Hercules, which actually ended the Disney Renaissance.
Close to it.
Greece actually banned the movie from being shown. They were going to do an opening weekend in Greece, and then they saw the movie and were like, never mind, we take it back. But when Hercules like kind of flopped, which I love Hercules, so this is just the facts, not my personal opinion. When Hercules sort of flopped, then they were allowed to do Treasure Planet.
And at this point, we are also entering in Disney having their like second half of the whole Disney afternoon, which was a series of Disney made shows.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of their films would end up having a The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules all had their own animated series about themselves. And my personal favorite one of the Hercules episodes is the one with the crossover with Aladdin. That one was funny.
Oh, I love that one. I used to religiously watch the Hercules cartoon and the Aladdin cartoon. Like, I'm pretty sure if I go back and watch either of them, I'm going to have so many cosplays on my list. It's going to be ridiculous.
I actually heard the Hercules show was really good.
It's a lot of fun. And the opening song is so catchy. It's sung by the Muses.
Oh, they were amazing.
So yeah, that's sort of how the Disney Renaissance is. I think the Renaissance goes on for a little bit, but I know Fantasia 2000 is sort of where it kind of dies out around that time frame when that comes out.
Because nobody wants to watch Fantasia. It's good in small spurts, but nobody sits down to watch the entirety of Fantasia in one go.
I did.
Yeah, I like Fantasia.
No, like, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just really long.
Zombie Hand hates Fantasia.
Wow.
You heard it here first.
Sell it to TMZ.
I'm always starting problems.
I will say the problem with Fantasia 2000, I think they were trying to capture that magic in a bottle again.
Mm-hmm.
Then they thought, oh, well, let's shove in a celebrity cameo. Let's try this. And don't get me wrong, like the Mother Earth one where the volcano, she runs away from the volcano bird, and the humpback whales. Now, those were two beautiful sequences. But you can only have, if you only have two beautiful sequences that goes beautiful with music, they filled the rest with stuff that wasn't that good, and people lost interest. You know, like you said, people nowadays, they don't want to watch long musical features like that anymore, which is a shame, but it's just the way, you know, entertainment evolves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Curse you short TikTok videos.
Vines!
Freaking Vines, man.
Do it for the Instagram. So that being said, though, backtracking a little bit, we're now entering into the late 80s, early 90s. Chronologically, actually, let me go. We'll come back to this port for one specific section. But we start getting into the 90s. In the kind of theme for the 90s in animation amongst movies and most entertainment is edgier and darker.
This is when the Donnie Darko cartoon came out.
No, it's not.
I'm totally kidding. I just wanted to see if anyone would actually believe me.
Audience, there is no Donnie Darko cartoon in the 90s. If there's one in the 2000s, I have no idea. But
I feel like that would have been more of an 80s cartoon.
It would have made more sense.
Well, Donnie Darko didn't come out until
2000.
the 2000s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it's impossible.
I was going to say maybe something from the MTV Liquid Television
Oh,
days
yes.
or
Oh,
something.
Oh,
God.
God.
MTV's Oddities.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Oh my God, you said that. Can I share a piece of trivia I learned from my 74-year-old boss?
Yes.
I learned he loved watching MTV in the early days. That his favorite program was pop-up videos.
Oh my God, I used to watch the shit out of pop-up videos.
Like, Doctor? Really? You watch Tube TV? Oh, I love Tube TV. That pop-up video thing was great. And I'm like, oh,
I think that's a VH1 thing, though.
okay. I don't know. I didn't question
Doesn't
it.
matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. So
Okay,
with
back to
this-
it. Sorry.
Back to it. That's fine. So with this in the 90s, we have two big things that kind of hit the ground running hard. And if we're going chronologically, probably the biggest change to this is now we're getting into more adult themed animation.
Can you extrapolate on that? Just
Yeah.
so we can separate that from maybe another type of adult animation.
What, Leo burping?
No.
No.
No. I would like him to explain what he means by adult themed animation.
Oh,
Yeah, so adult themed animation means that it's animation that is not specifically targeted to children. Because we bump into anything that is either related to a toy, related to a franchise for said toys, or related to something familiar and toned down into to be children's animation. For example, Rambo.
so not necessarily explicit.
Not necessarily explicit, but themed to be a more older audience.
Makes sense.
And this probably the biggest game changer. So let's start here. Probably the biggest game changer for that is, in fact, The Simpsons. This is a
Ooh.
juggernaut of animation, and still going strong. I think right now it actually has the Guinness World Record of the most episodes for for a sitcom.
And still
I
running?
mean, it's been going for a really, like, since 89, I think.
89 to current, and it's still going for it. It is, I think it was at some report that it can, like, even in its worst years, it makes something like 500 to 600 million in royalties alone. Now,
Can I be a Simpson?
I would like to be one of them Simpsons I've heard so much about.
I would like to make some of that cash money.
Okay, so it came out in 1989, but it started on the Tracy Ullman show in 1987. So technically, The Simpsons is as old as me, and I'm as old as The Simpsons.
Simpsons is almost as old as me.
So with that, though, this does change a lot of things on there. The same voice acting cast has been there, and voice acting has now been a lot more recognizable and a lot more prolific than it used to be back in the 80s. Dan Castellaneta, who does Homer, basically he does plays and such, but every so often just wants to add in a line for Homer just because he knows the audience loves it. And it's like a badge of honor to be a guest on an episode of The Simpsons. But also, The Simpsons aren't targeted to children is sort of the key thing for it. They have episodes about children, but that's not their target audience. And there is so much to The Simpsons, like, I kind of want to wrap this up quick, or else we'll be stuck here all day for this. Because unfortunately, a brief history of animation, The Simpsons alone is a whole topic for that. But the key thing to this is an animation series that makes money for the audience that's not targeted to children. Now, the reason why that's interesting is because there's two other animation things that come out in the 90s that become big. This is where anime comes in, but distribution gets kind of messy with anime at this time.
Because cocaine was easier to get than good dubbed anime.
He's right, especially back then in the 90s.
Dude, back in the 90s, yes, trying to find any kind of, like, man, even finding anything subtitled, like, finding anime in the 90s was just impossible. I feel pretty positive.
Absolutely a trip. Yeah, it was a lot of that, wasn't it? Where, like, your friend's older sibling pirated and downloaded onto a VHS an episode of something from some channel that had, like, 6 lines going through it. I mean, it's 100% how it was. I remember, like, the first time I saw anime at, like, Blockbuster. And I was like, what? Why? How is this here? Like, what is happening right now? Like they had, like, Ninja Scroll or something. And I was just like,
Blockbuster knows that anime exists?
what the hell is this?
I remember it was like late 90s, early 2000s. My aunt had a catalog that she ended up ordering that sold anime through it as it was being dubbed and sold on DVDs. And so she ended up getting, it was for my cousins and then also me when I would go up to visit. She ended up getting, I think it was like Ark the Lad, but then also Escaflowne, one DVD at a time. And it was like one every other month or something. It took so long to finish anything, but that was like a treasure trove when we finally, managed to get our hands on that. Otherwise, in the 90s, I watched Sci-Fi Channel's Anime Movie Week in the summer. Did I say summer twice? Whatever. And that's where I ended up watching a lot of stuff, including like Urase Yatsura's Beautiful Dreamer, which is just like a drug trip.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's so weird. And then like weird stuff like Sol Bianca, but then also like Macross and one that I love, Blue Seed.
I remember being in an airport in Minneapolis, and I bought an uncut VHS of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh.
And I thought it was like the coolest thing in the world. I was like, yeah, there's like blood and stuff. It's crazy.
I love that for you.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I think it's kind of funny that we still have to use terminology that's synonymous with cocaine about this. Man, I got the uncut version of it.
It's like the uncut? Oh, yeah.
Pure Colombian Dragon Ball Z.
And that's not even a joke. There is a Colombian version of Dragon Ball Z.
I mean, it can't be worse than the French version, Big Green.
You know what? So, if you were back then in the
DBZ watch party.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Jeez.
If you were back then, almost everyone had the same like 4 animes that started their journey into anime.
Unless you watched the Sci-Fi Channel in the 90s and then you watched things like Sol Bianca, which nobody's heard of but me and one other person.
It's me. Hi, I'm that other person.
Okay, now I know 2 other people that know it.
I've got some homework for everybody. After this, just go watch the Canadian Dragon Ball Z.
Oh,
I've
Oh my
seen
god,
it.
I'm so
I've seen it.
That's the ocean
so
dub, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's the ocean dub. Yeah.
It's wild.
Is that the one that goes dragon, dragon,
Rock
dragon?
dragon.
No, that's
the American version.
Okay.
I mean, or like the entire season 0 of Yu-Gi-Oh, where everyone had different hair colors, and it's not canon.
Now the Canadian one is Dragon Ball Z.
It's a classic.
Yeah, it makes
All right, I'm
It's
just
awful.
saying,
It's bad.
foreign language DBZ watch party when?
We might do that as a special or something.
No, I was just gonna say is like I'm also kind of down to try to find the version of it in Spanish where they had to change Chi-Chi's name to Milk.
Oh, because doesn't Chi-Chi mean like titties or something?
Chi-Chi does mean titties, and as a tiny Hispanic child living in Idaho, hearing that in one of his favorite animes was always hilarious. It's just like, you know what? I guess fine. In this world, some people just named their kid Titties, because why not?
But yeah, no, it's like the same like 4 animes that people have got. It's either Sailor Moon, DBZ, not Dragon Ball. Keep that in mind. This is a sequel series. We're just gonna skip all of that.
So you mean Dragon Ball Z, not Dragon Ball.
Yeah, Dragon Ball comes out in the 80s, but like no one's heard of it. You just start with part 2.
And then, but then, like, people get all up on Dragon Ball Z, and then you realize, wait, there's a prequel series? It's like...
Yeah, it was, like, mind-blowing.
Neon Genesis Evangelion is probably the big one that tons and tons of people have seen. And I want to say the other one's either Cowboy Bebop, because that's a solid dub that they did.
Did you mention Sailor Moon?
Yes.
No. Yeah, wait, hold up. Yu Yu Hakusho.
Did you mention Pokemon?
No.
But Pokemon comes later.
Digimon?
No, Digimon actually started in 2000, like right at the 2000s.
Also, I don't mean to pull the anime card here, but y'all are forgetting some classics in the 80s.
No.
Listen, I'm just gonna say it. Vampire Hunter D was my first anime when I was 7 years old.
Robotech was mine, and technically Robotech aired in the US before I was born. So, Robotech, Ronin Warriors, I mean... The 80s had their share, so it does kind of depend on where you started.
Yeah.
From my understanding, the big push for westernization of anime started with bootlegs of Akira and Mobile Suit Gundam.
Oh my god, yes, that's true. Akira was huge.
I watched
that one when I was in 6th grade, and it started airing at like midnight or 1 a.m. during the summer. And so I was able to stay up and watch it, and it finished at like 3 a.m. And I just remember sitting there going like, I don't understand a thing that I just watched. But I was so tired. I was like really tired by the end of it, and I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but this looks cool.
Hey, let's watch Akira while being drowsy. This is definitely gonna work.
Makes so much sense. We should have an anime podcast just so we can talk about animes, because I have so many things I want to say.
I'm
Honestly, same.
in.
Okay, we'll do a podcast episode on anime. That's on the list.
Okay, cool.
Leo, I want a 3-podcast deal or nothing.
We'll see how number 1 goes first, and we'll work our way up from that.
It's like, who knows? We might even branch off to just like, it's like Gaming Theaters Present podcast, the side story, anime.
I do think there's a use case to be made that you could do sci-fi spaghetti westerns and talk about the big 3 of those, and I want that.
Ooh,
I want
can I
that.
guess what they are?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
So it is gonna be Cowboy
The
Bebop,
best one, true.
That's a solid.
Outlaw Star,
That's the second one.
and Macross.
Ooh, actually, no. Not for me, at least. For me, because they came out around the same time, it's Bebop, Outlaw Star. You got those 2 in one, and then Trigun.
Trigun was a big one.
Oh, that makes
that's
makes
right.
a lot of sense.
But I mean, I could see an argument from across too.
I just couldn't think of the third one. But I've also I've also never seen Trigun.
Oh, okay. We should probably get away from anime, or this entire episode's going to be this.
Yes.
If you liked this talk, stay tuned for Gaming Theater Presents Anime coming soon.
Yeah,
Episode 1A or something.
Yes.
it'll be down the line, probably, but definitely sometime.
It's like,
in the season.
we will literally have every episode just be an arc.
Oh,
I just call it that.
tournament arc!
Yeah.
The tournament arcs.
Tell you what we'll do. We'll take the Dragon Ball Z approach, since we discussed Dragon Ball Z, and we'll take several podcasts to talk about a single episode each time.
That's us powering up.
We'll just call them sagas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want to be the Trunks Saga. That one's like the best.
I agree.
Ooh, then that means it can't be me because I'm not the best.
I disagree.
I think you're pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Find out next time on Gaming Theater Presents.
Before we get off of that topic, though, let's do a quick sidestep before we move off of anime, because one of the biggest problems, as we have discussed with anime, is dubbing and censoring and how that was placed into here. There is a mess with that.
Are we still in the 90s, technically?
I was just going to say, are we still in the 90s?
Or is this the 2000s? Because there's something I want to bring up before in the thousands.
There's something I want to bring up if we're still in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
We're still in the 90s right now.
I still want to talk about Yu Yu Hakusho.
Liz can go first.
Reboot.
Yeah.
Reboot was the first fully computer-generated TV show in existence in the 90s. And I know stories about Reboot.
Tales of Yore.
Well, I got the art book, which I think might have actually gotten lost in Hawaii. So Reboot, actually, the creators wanted it to be like a whole, like each season would be a saga, like, you know, a whole overarching story. But then ABC was like, no, because we want to market this towards kids, and we don't think kids would, you know, we don't want them to tune in and then not know what's going on, or be like, oh, I missed the previous episodes. I guess I shouldn't watch this one. So the first 2 seasons of Reboot were actually, is it syndicated? When it's just like episodic, or like everything starts and resolves in one episode, and all that carries over is like, okay, and all that carries over is like inside jokes and stuff. But then they were being dropped from ABC at the end of season 2, and they knew they were being dropped. So the last 2 episodes of season 2 are incredible and epic, and they have an overarching plot that leads into season 3, because that's when they get to start their whole what they wanted in the beginning.
That is weird, because they do a season 3, right? Like,
yeah, and then they have 4 movies that they call season 4. Also with Dot, they thought it was too sexual for her to have 2 breasts. So they made them like have her shirt, like, I mean, like a normal shirt covers, you know, across the boobs, which they just called the mono boob because they couldn't actually.
That's a uniboob.
They couldn't even put like a dip in the shirt to show like the shirt was coming to rest even a little bit in between the boobles.
That is a weird thing.
Yeah. Anyway, the interesting stories about the creation of Reboot.
The 90s is a weird time.
It was a weird time.
Probably another big one that pops around into the 90s is going to be Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So
Oh my god.
good.
I watched that religiously.
That one was definitely a big turn for just animation in general.
Dude, and you just hear the first like 3 notes of that opening song, and you're like, yes, I'm in.
Oh, we just need a song here, but we don't need it to hit too hard. Can you give me something, Dan?
Oh, then they went hard. Nobody said that they had to go that hard, and then they went, hold my beer.
And then it's like, okay, this is for The Dark Knight, correct? It's like, yes, like the Batman Dark Knight. All right, cool. Are those violins on fire? You're damn right they are.
Yeah, I know this is a kid's show, but what if we just brought in like a full orchestra? Just like a whole big old orchestra.
We don't need to synthesize anything on this set.
So there's a funny story to how that whole thing comes through, and it's so well designed and such, because this has to actually deal with Tiny Toons Adventures of all things. Tiny Toons Adventures was made by Steven Spielberg. So Warner Brothers, the guys who at the time have the role, also owned DC and DC intellectual property. They didn't want to do anything really major with animation except for like their properties with Looney Tunes and other things. And then Steven Spielberg kind of made exclusive movies for them. As part of that deal, basically their short end of it is Steven Spielberg wants a full orchestra, let's give him a full orchestra. Steven Spielberg wants this high-powered animation studio, fine, we'll give him an animation studio. Oh, Steven Spielberg wants to make Tiny Toon Adventures? Can't tell him no, let's do this.
Yeah, whatever he wants, he gets.
And that's a type of clout nobody has in Hollywood. Yeah, you just want to do it? Fine.
Well, when the dude creates gold time after time, I mean, I feel like you're probably a little bit more likely to be like, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like, you see, you can have some really fantastic resources once you made Hollywood your bitch.
Or what is it?
True.
There's a Family Guy joke with about not Steven Spielberg, but
Oh, was it pissing off the
no Stephen King.
pissing off the animators?
No, Stephen King.
Oh.
It was a joke on Stephen King. There's like, all right, I'm writing a book. What it's about? It's about this.
Oh my god, I'm trying to find a plot to the Stephen King book.
It's about a lamp.
Ooh.
I guess. Ooh,
It's
I guess
haunted.
All right, when can I have it?
And so like Steven Spielberg leaves to make another series called Freakazoid, which is amazing. And so
Oh, good.
Freakazoid.
Cult classic.
Which really knows how to cement in some just like hidden adult jokes in there.
Freakazoid's amazing.
Oh yeah,
Animaniacs did the same thing.
absolutely.
I think it was Animaniacs that used to do like they would have the worse version of a joke, and then the censors would be like, we can't put that in this show. So then they would go down to like a lesser version of the joke, but because they came at them with like shocking stuff first, they were more inclined to let them in with like the adult humor, like the whole fingerprints thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. So let me correct myself. He leaves to go do the Animaniacs, and then after Animaniacs, he still works on to do Pinky the Brain and Freakazoid. Now, that being said, though, the artist for Tiny Toons is why can't I think of his name? Tim
Allen.
No.
Curry.
No.
Stephen Curry.
No.
Curry on rice.
Condoleezza Rice.
Condoleezza
Samantha.
And Rice.
Yeah. Interview with the Vampire.
Vampire's Kiss.
Timony Timmons.
Tiny Tim.
Tiny Tim! That's what I was trying to get there.
Tiny Toon Adventures. Wait.
Oh, it all came back around. 6 degrees of separation.
Kevin Bacon.
We figured it out.
We did it.
What? What'd you say?
Kevin Bacon.
Oh.
'Cause
Yeah, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. There's actually a website that's like, I think it's called 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. And you can put in or put in an actor or actress and the thing will actually make the connections for you. And I think you can even put in like Abraham Lincoln.
Nice.
I'm
Bruce
gonna
Timm.
actually check that. Now I need to know.
Bruce Timm is the name of the guy. So Bruce Timm basically decides, hey, we have all this stuff. Can we make and could we make a Batman TV show and a cartoon show? And the executives basically tell him, look, we can, but I don't know, do something if you can to make that shows that this has some sort of promise, right? Some kind of animatic. And so he does. What he makes is the intro for Batman the Animated Series. That whole intro is just an animatic, and he just cleans it up to make it better for that. They see that, no music, just no voice acting, just here's what we've got so far, sold. And they're like, well, we kind of want to get we probably want to get a whole orchestra cast. Hey, we got that leftover orchestra from Tiny Toons. Let's just use that. All right.
Just got one lying around,
You just got lying around.
Just have an orchestra on hand.
Well, what about the animation studio? We got that on hand from what Steven Spielberg's been working on. What about voice acting connections? Oh, we got something like that we could work with. And it just like everything fell into this perfect storm for them to do this.
Just get Jim Cummings on board and you've got the whole cast.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Mark Hamill has basically two famous roles out there: Luke Skywalker and the Joker from Batman the Animated Series.
Oh my god, can I tell a story really quick about Mark Hamill?
See,
one of my cousins does solar panel installation out in Los Angeles, Hollywood, wherever the hell they live, Venice Beach. So he went out to install solar panels, and it turned out to be for, or he was measuring the roof for solar panels, and it turned out to be Mark Hamill's house. And my cousin does not care about Star Wars or any, like the Joker, none of it. So he's just out there chatting up Mark Hamill, and what he came away with was that he he dressed like a hobo, but he smelled really nice. But he also has a whole bunch of Joker merch, or like Joker paraphernalia and stuff. And so when my aunt was telling my sister about it, because they talk a lot, when she was telling my sister about it, my sister was telling me about it, and she was like, why would he have a bunch of Joker merch? Is he like a fan? And I was like, oh my god, she doesn't know. And so I got to tell her that Mark Hamill voices the Joker in the cartoon and in other places.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the show was
blew her mind.
The show was so good. They had so many great actors as voice actors to do these roles. And then they move on to like the New Adventures of Batman, and then they move on to the Adventures of Superman, and they move on from that to Batman Beyond, and
which is also incredible.
Which is
absolutely
also incredible. And then they move from that to doing Justice League, and they move from that to being Justice League Unlimited. And keep in mind, this is pre what we have now with like the MCU. That is 5 different series, one universe, all plugged together.
Still some of the best animation. And kind of returning just real quick to Batman the Animated, that's where we get Harley Quinn from.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people like don't realize, is that Harley Quinn is an original from the 90s. She's not even as like old as the other characters.
Yeah. Exactly.
So interesting.
But yeah, and their plot lines and storylines were so well done. The Cadmus arc is one of my favorite things to watch, and it's much later on there.
Well, it's because of all those successes, right? You mentioned Justice League Unlimited, that we get things like Young Justice, which then spins off into further other things. I mean, like, you gotta hand it to to Disney. Wow, to the DC animation. They have really built upon things.
Oh yeah,
no, Disney will probably take credit.
Who we love.
Eventually.
Who we love. We love the company.
We love the company.
What, are those lawyers calling?
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
But also, let's not mention that DC also went really hard with their animated movies as well.
Oh, true. Mask the Phantasm?
Uh-huh.
Right?
Oh, yes.
Flashpoint Paradox.
Paradox. Bruce Timm, from what I understand, still runs a lot of their animation departments, too.
Really?
Yeah. So he's in the credits for most of those animated movies.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is funny because one of the things is that and he's not doing anything like this anymore, but they used to be, if he could get the time to get Andrea Romano, who's one of the best voice directors in the business, her credits are like 90% of the greatest animations out there series out there is her. And a good majority of the cast for the original Justice League universe, they counted as canon to the Justice League universe as part of it. In fact, they did a movie for that like just a couple of years ago. And the series has been done for Justice League has been done for over 10 plus years at this point. So moving on with the other weird, crazy animation things on this, one of the ones that are kind of out there is just sort of the Sci-Fi Network and other things that are just clamoring at the bit to get as much weird animation that they have. MTV had an animation department.
Oh yeah,
That's how we got Aeon Flux, right?
Yeah, Aeon Flux.
And that's how we got the Max.
The Max.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Beavis and
Which
Butthead.
is and Daria.
And Daria,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Daria is actually a spinoff from Beavis and Butthead. But yeah, the Max was by MTV, and I remember being way too young when I watched that, but like my parents let me, and so what was I gonna do but watch this cool looking cartoon? Very psychological when you get older and watch it though, and read the comics.
MTV
Anyway.
Oddities, that one was a weird series of things. Animation doesn't really hold up right now, but it was a thing. At this point, some of the animation almost feels like that they are throwing spaghetti at the wall.
yeah.
I want to say it's
Sometimes you just need some good spaghetti
I want to know if it's
on the wall.
I can't remember if it's HBO or Showtime, but one of those guys did Spawn, the animated series.
HBO.
Oh yeah.
Was it HBO? Yeah, HBO.
HBO.
Oh, amazing animation. Kind of helps that you have Todd McFarlane. No relation to Seth MacFarlane. Those are two different styles on there.
Yeah, Todd McFarlane actually has talent.
Ooh.
Truthfully,
That was a
though-
fighting word.
Truthfully, I would watch a Seth MacFarlane Spawn show.
Yeah.
I mean, I
I
would
really-
too, but I'm still going to call him garbage.
I like Seth MacFarlane. You can call me garbage too.
I'm not saying you're garbage. I'm saying the majority of the stuff he puts out, especially nowadays, is garbage. But but honestly, a Seth MacFarlane Spawn actually sounds funny.
It was like I hate all of his stuff, but I kind of am still interested though. So if he can make it happen,
Not completely
It's
out.
like, give me some margaritas and some vodka, and then just put it on, and I will enjoy it. I promise.
it's like shut the gate. It's like wait, open it up a little bit.
I might Mystery Science Theater 3000 it a little bit, but I'll watch it.
Ooh.
But that's where these kind of weird animation comes in there, which is kind of weird because Mike Judge is an interesting case of an animation.
Oh my god, that man.
He makes Beavis and Butthead, which he knows going in, this is not an intellectually built show at all.
No.
Nope.
However,
This is not smart humor.
no. But then he makes Daria as well, which is very smart humor. And probably one of my favorite animated series that was out there, King of the Hill.
Yes.
Ah.
I'll
I-
tell you what.
Had a really hard problem with King of the Hill for the longest time.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy it when it was on initially, and it wasn't until like a subsequent rewatch in like the thousands that I finally like grew to appreciate it.
I feel similarly. Sometimes I think maybe just like additional watches of something can.
And honestly, some series just are just like that.
I think when I got a little older, and Ben and I, we binged watched the whole series last year.
Yeah, we
like-
whole series last year.
Yeah, and it's like I got more of the adult jokes, the adult situations, like stresses at work or trying to
Oh,
put
yeah.
up with your relative at the holiday, and it's like I found humor in it. So, the topic of this is, adult animation. I think this is a good example of adult animation. It's not, raunchy or anything, but it's so full of like adult experiences that you don't really appreciate until you've had those experiences. And you're like, oh yeah, I've had that happen to me. That's kind of funny. And here's the outcome. So, yeah.
One of my favorite episodes in that is watching when Hank Hill has to prove that he did not rent a porno movie from a VHS store in order to clean up his credit so he can buy a dryer. And at some point,
I feel like it's also something really great about King of the Hill is that it's relatable humor. It's like, this is something that like we've all been through. Like like Moon was saying.
It's relatable humor to its extreme as well. So like, no one's gonna do what Hank does. Probably, I'll spend because he didn't want to spend the $10 to pay back that movie fine. No one instead watches, I think, 60 hours worth of porno in order to prove an inconsistency in there.
It's like, man, he was really dedicated to having a clean record. I mean, in one way.
Let it be on record that Hank Hill really knows his porno.
I could not have had it because the tattoo on her left butt cheek was different from the one here, which was not released until this date. Therefore, sir, I did not rent that porno.
But then you have characters like Dale Gribble's one of my favorites.
Oh my god!
God.
The most like highest cross of like paranoid and gullible.
Oh man, but yeah, so you have some big names working in animation, partially for the funsies. Like Steven Spielberg is almost like, I just want to make a Looney Tunes thing. Let's do this. And then you also have this, things like
Leo.
I have one more King of the Hill thing before we move on? Can I please? Because it's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh.
I love my sweet penguin. Do you remember? I remember when that episode when Peggy accidentally took the little Mexican child home. And they kept trying to speak Spanish to her. You were laughing so hard you couldn't breathe.
But it's the joy of Peggy, for she is as confident as she is not good at stuff.
No, but like,
Bless her for trying, though.
She would speak Spanish terribly, and you and the little animated child would get the same look on your face. What did they?
Yeah. That's the exact way to put it. It's
Okay.
just like, and I love how even like the lawyer in Mexico was so down, just like, Mr. Hill, we like just trying to talk to her. It's like, we want to prove that her Spanish is so horrible she can't even order a glass of water. She's like, I'm that is not true. Okay, I can't even roll my R's. See, like margarita, and just like, there's not even 2 R's in margarita.
So the influence of King of the Hill is going to affect animation going forward for other series in the 2000s plus. That down-to-earth slow burn of animation for it is where we get things like Bob's Burgers from.
Yeah.
That similar style.
Simpsons leads to Family Guy.
It's sort of like The Simpsons is sort of your middle ground for it, and you can either go more extreme like with Family Guy, or you can go less extreme like Bob's Burgers. So at this point, this is where we bump into... Oh, one last note for adult animation before I forget. A big player in this game becomes South Park. And the biggest thing for South Park is its speed. Simpsons, to make one episode, I think takes roughly about 6 months from start to finish to make one episode. South Park has held a record of being able to finish from start to finish one episode in 24 hours.
Yes, and I know what episode that is. I know what the episode that is. That is the presidential one where Obama won the election.
Yeah, I think it's called
Day After or something. I don't know, but yeah.
Oh no, forgot. If I bring it up, I'll bring it up later. But so even early on, during its first season, it looks kind of cruddy for it, and it was funny because essentially Trey Parker, Matt Stone, sort of asked around and said, "Hey, our animation isn't that complicated. Could we get something that would speed this up?" And they're like, and the executive they were working with is, "Hang on, let me see what I can do." Yeah, it's the animation program and computer system that was used for Jurassic Park. As Trey Parker has once described it as, this is like asking for a fountain pen and finding a laser that can shoot the moon. It just overpowered how much stuff they actually need to get the animation done, which is why on average, they take 7 days to make one episode. And that's how fast they can just get these things churned out.
That's why South Park is very much on top of like memes and
current events.
Like current events is because by the time it comes out, it's barely a week old.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also like shows that the creators like shooting their shot, just like, oh, you don't want us to make fun of that? You hear that, guys? They don't want us to make fun of that. It'd be such a shame if we were to exploit that. They do not, I repeat, do not want us to make fun of this particular subject. 1 week later, you guys said you wouldn't. I lied!
You believed us?
This becomes the opposite of an issue for it. Essentially, they can just pump them out really quickly. Now, this brings us towards the late 90s, and here's something that we get into an issue that we never had before. Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network is the first channel to be completely dedicated to animation. Now we bump into an issue we need between Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and various other channels that are out there. Animation is just needed for content and things that are out there for it.
Mhm.
And so this is where we get to bump into certain things that are kind of neat. Hanna-Barbera, instead of being known as the cheapest of the cheap animations for it, steps up their game to make this. They have some great cartoons on there, and most of these are linked to Hanna-Barbera in one way or another, which gets really weird. Dexter's Laboratory is amazing.
I
So
love
good.
Dexter's Lab. That one also has like an epic theme song, but like in a different way than
Mhm.
Batman.
Oh, yeah.
SWAT Cats, which has a which is super 90s action oriented show. It's amazing. And they're anthropomorphic cats.
I never watched SWAT Cats.
So good.
Me
It's so
neither.
good.
You know what I did watch in the 90s?
Hmm.
Biker Mice from Mars.
Yeah, the 90s had a weird anthropomorphic phase, and that has to deal with it worked for the turtles. Let's do it for other things.
Yeah, the Scooby-Doo effect happened, right? Where
Yeah, it's their version
they
of
got 4 turtles, we got 4 iguanas. Yeah, 4
Well,
iguanas.
Well, I mean, once he mastered like doing, walking, talking, like he started with reptiles and went to amphibians and thought, what if we did it with other animals?
Biker Mice
Street
from
sharks.
Mars. Street sharks.
Interesting.
Stop!
I was gonna say, does anyone remember Capital Critters?
No.
Samurai pizza cats.
Remember that.
Well, that's an anime. That's a little different. But yes, it's still anthropomorphic, though. I'll count it.
Can I share a cartoon I was not allowed to watch and then tell you the reason why I wasn't allowed to watch it?
Yes.
Yes.
Captain Planet.
What?
Did your parents love pollution or something?
Was Captain Planet too sexy?
You have those little shorts on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, would you like to
My
sit there
father.
together? Oh,
My
God.
father. Because you met my father, my love.
Any hoozles.
My father did not allow us to watch Captain Planet because it was, quote, hippie liberal propaganda.
Ah.
If that tells you all, I'm pretty sure that tells you all you need to know about my dad.
Wow. And that is a topic I'm not going to touch in this episode.
That's not what this podcast is about.
But yeah, so like we have bump into different, like tons and tons of different animation and such. So Cartoon Network comes around, and now we have a cartoon network entirely dedicated to cartoons.
Cartoons.
Cartoons, yes. They had not all of them are hits or misses. Some of them were really good and just sort of disappeared because it's even though you have a whole network dedicated, that doesn't mean that you have the cost saving or ability to make it. Like one of my favorite shows that just sort of died off was Megas XLR. It's
Mega Sex LR?
Megas XLR, Liz.
Mega-
Oh.
There's X.
Megas XLR. You can't just run it all together, Leo.
Mega Sex LR. That's 100%.
Order yours today, $9.95. Batteries not included.
My favorite part about that is essentially they literally they watched the anime Macross, and in the earlier episodes, the main pilot destroys half a portion of the city because he's not good at this. And their thought was, what if? Hold on with me. We have something like Macross, but the guy is a real idiot and just can't get this going. At some point, and this is one of my favorite the things on it, is the villains of this series start thinking he's the villain because he won't stop destroying things.
Such a good show.
Such a good show. There was Camp Lazlo that came out for that. But yeah, and then they had an anime block. 2 of them. Well, they had Adult Swim at the C Lab 2021.
Oh,
And,
Brack Show.
The Rack Show, Story Rack.
I love Brack. I want to talk about a cartoon that just sort of dried up, and that was the Brack Show. And I was so sad. It was one of my favorites.
Space
the
Ghost
Aqua
Coast to
Teen.
Coast.
Yes.
Yeah, Space Coast, Coast to Coast.
I wasn't allowed to watch that either.
Space Ghost?
No.
Wow. So
Space Ghost was kind of a weird one.
It was
No,
weird.
my dad caught one episode and it had an actor he didn't like, so he assumed all the actors were going to be that he didn't
Jesus.
like, so I was
Yep.
allowed to watch it.
Well, that's what I think is so weird about Space Ghost is that it mixed animation from a character from an old serial
Mhm.
and combined it with real people, like in a talk show.
You know what I
format?
think is really weird about Space Ghost
Hmm.
is how it specifically went out of its way to be what Sammy's dad doesn't like.
Yeah, why don't you guys work Hater the Same's dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, they when they were making it, they specifically said that guy in particular.
Little known fact.
Probably.
About that.
Like, what is he
Yeah,
not
ask him.
like?
Okay, so but you also had Toonami in the middle of the day, the
Yep.
anime block. That's where I ended up watching Tenchi Muyo. Let me tell you how
Yeah.
later it was when I
Yes,
became
Queen.
older, wanted to collect Tenchi Muyo and realized that I'm collecting these completely out of order because there's 3 different OVAs for this sucker.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the dubbing, like not the dubbing itself, but like changing Saki to tea,
Oh
Like-
god.
Oh,
typical America stuff.
They have jelly donuts too.
I was gonna say, like, this is around that time, right, with the
Yeah.
advent of English dubbing,
Mhm.
where you see things like frying pan, drying pan, jelly donuts that are onigiri,
Right.
soda in place of wine. Like Gohan in one of the DBZ movies, one of the first DBZ movies, gets drunk, like legitimately
him.
gets drunk and causes havoc, and they just don't ever explain it. They just wave it away, like, oh yeah, he drinks some juice. It's weird, crazy.
He drank some fun juice.
I think this is probably a really good way to segue into 4Kids.
Oh God, no!
Oh god.
Mm.
Yep.
We're late 90s, early 2000s. This is the 4Kids anime jam session here.
You know, and hold on. So I was also having a moment, I think a couple weeks ago, where I was talking with my coworkers about, like, you ever just like feel so old you actually remember when something literally changed from one thing to another? Because every single time I think of 4Kids, I keep thinking just like, I remember when it used to be called the Fox Box, but I remember when I used to be called Fox Kids. But then I remember when I used to be called, well, back to 4Kids. And now it went full circle. It's like, they try to go out of their way to find a rating lower than G.
Well, it's
Well,
crazy.
so I have-
Go ahead.
Hang on, Liz. What was
No,
that?
sorry, Dane, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Go for it. I'll go next.
So I think a lot about because I didn't really know that 4Kids was like hot garbage at first
Right?
until they were doing Escaflowne,
Oh no.
and
Okay.
I watched the first like 4 episodes that they had aired, and then my cousin then they canceled it like pretty quick. And that's when my cousin started getting that ordered in the mail. And when we watched it, I realized how butchered it was. And it's because they were trying to keep the rating so low that they were cutting out anything even remotely offensive, to the point where they were like chopping up episodes. Like there was a couple episodes that were like 3 Escaflowne episodes merged into one because they cut out so much content. But there's a point in that anime where you just come across some certain things that you can't edit away without ruining the story, and I think they realized that, and that's why they canceled it. That's what I realized 4Kids was garbage. Also, I thought instead of it being like 4 kids, I thought it was 4 kids, and now whenever I hear 4 kids, I just imagine that it was like a room of 4 children.
It's like, no, it's too scary. Make it like not like that. No, I feel you on that, because I remember. Oh, man, I remember just like 4Kids was also my first introduction to One Piece, but I didn't mind it because I was also like 6 at the time, so just like, okay, can be silly, but
Well,
then like
4 Kids did Pokemon for a while too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And Yu-Gi-Oh.
Shaman King.
Yes. Oh
Shaman
my god.
King,
Well,
yeah.
I watched the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh ones though, but
Oh yeah.
Dane, you also had something you were gonna say.
Oh yeah. Just in similar fashion, right? To your Escaflowne story, like Yu-Gi-Oh. There's a bunch of scenes of like security guards holding guns,
Oh my god.
and those are just gone, but they're still pointing. So it's like really awkward because they're holding, like they have like the empty hand.
They're pointing really hard.
Yeah, like
You'll come with me, Settle Kaiba.
yeah. There's a scene exactly where Kaiba's being like taken by his security team, who have betrayed him, and they're all pointing at him. And even as a kid, I was like, That's kind of weird. Like,
They're like, that's him. That's Seto Kaiba. Come with us.
yeah.
And then he's like, "No!" Jumps out the window. It's like,
Yep.
that was oh my god.
That's that
No.
scene.
No. So
I believe it.
Just like just looking back when I was just like first enjoying One Piece, but then when I grew up and matured and realized just like, okay, maybe it's a little too goofy. Then I started reading the mangas of it. I'm like, oh my god, Jesus Christ! And I was like, they really should have talked more about the. Let's see this list. It's like murder, slavery, it's just like all these things going down the list. There's a scene where I specifically remember within like episode 2 where one of Luffy's friends is literally held at gunpoint, but 4Kids decide to replace that with some sort of like little spring action thing with a hammer at the end of it, like some Looney Tunes.
Oh, I do have to say, like, the One Piece English 4Kids opening is still a bop to this day, though.
Honestly, it's like that was the one redeemable thing about 4K. Just like, you know what, they had to get one thing right. At least that opening did kind of slap.
Like, what are the kids into? Rap. Let's just do a rap song about pirates. Like,
let's do it. But also just like
Leo, we might have to do a part 3.
we do. But it's like they had to replace guns with super soakers. There's literally a dude about to have like bomb suicide, but they had to replace all his bombs with just like one sword. It's like, let's get ready for battle. I'm like, well, that was a complete de-escalation of this scenario.
I mean, the entire idea of the Shadow Realm.
Oh my god, the Shadow Realm.
For those who aren't aware, in Yu-Gi-Oh!, the 4Kids dub specifically, there is this thing known as the Shadow Realm, which means that when people have bad things happen to them, like when buildings fall on them or when they get cut in half, they don't die, because that would be bad. They go to the Shadow Realm.
Wait, I have not watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Since the 4Kids dub. Is that not a thing?
No, the Shadow Realm doesn't exist in the like.
It's really not. They were talking about just straight murder, murder.
Like. So there's
I just learned that today. I was today years old when I learned that the Shadow Realm was not real.
There's a scene
I
where
just thought that the Shadow Realm was like where your cards go to die.
Yeah, no, you go there to die too. There's a scene where Yugi gets challenged to a shadow game, and the stage comes alive and has literal buzzsaws that
Oh my god!
Yes, that's just what I was thinking. But like the original's like a little like bright glowing disc.
That will cut you in half if you lose too many life points. But it like just does like psychic damage to them or something. Like
emotional damage.
Pretty much. I guess my last story for 4Kids, and then I will turn it over to somebody else. So if you've heard of the anime Madoka Magica, it is an adult, like meaning not sexy time, but like graphic scenes, violence, etc. Magical girl show that doesn't start out that way. It starts out as kind of cute and wholesome, very Sailor Moon-esque, and then very quickly starts to go downhill.
I haven't watched it yet, so no spoilers.
Fair enough. Don't worry, there will be no spoilers here.
It's a deconstruction.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that, guy.
It's a what?
A deconstruction.
Oh yeah, I know it's like a subversion of the like magical girl tropes, but
so 4Kids, being the awesome pillars of animation and dubbing that we've already described, decided we got to get on this. We need us some magical girl. Oh, this is real. And they, bought streaming rights or whatever you want to call it, and decided to make their own show called Magical Molly. Now, this show never aired, I don't believe, but they were trying to turn this adult-centric magical girl show into a kid-friendly show about wishes and friendship. And y'all, having seen Madoka Magica, I do not know how it's possible. I think there's 24 episodes in Madoka.
No, there's only 12.
Is there only 12?
There's only 12 and like one movie that like ties everything in the finale.
I feel like you could get like 6, maybe, out of Magical Molly. And that's pushing it.
Dude, oh my god. They'd be lucky to get to 3, honestly.
Yeah, because there is, like, the first couple episodes, it starts out pretty normal. And then and then it takes a turn and doesn't
And
really
so
slow down.
were they trying to dub Madoka Magica into Magical Molly or whatever?
Yes.
And
Okay.
with certain edits on that, and at some point they just gave up.
Yeah, because
Well, that's the same thing that happened with Escaflowne. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not quite as dark as I've heard Madoka Magica gets, but like Escaflowne deals with some pretty weird topics for the time. Like they get into like gender transition, they get into why does Fulkin have two hot cat girls around at all times? Like
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
show doesn't get into that. You just use your
Yeah,
imagination.
no, Madoka Magica. If you've seen the series,
Oh, dude.
if
I
you know,
think
you know.
you know. And I can tell you, you're lucky if you're going to get you maybe get 2 episodes out of that at least. And then
Yeah.
the series
Oh,
just
yeah.
sort of ends.
I like how we keep going lower in episodes. Just like the more we think about it, we're just like, no, you got to cut this out, this out, this out. It's like, it's just one less episode. Let's go there.
You get like an episode and a half.
I have a feeling that for Magical Molly, somebody decided, yeah, we should get right on this, and didn't watch the anime before they got this. They just sort of skipped that part.
I just found a cool piece of trivia about 4Kids Entertainment.
Oh, God.
They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy
Of course they did.
2016. Effective February 7th, 2017, the company ceased all immediate operations and
Oh,
lost all the license and products to so many things.
So I'm not gonna get my second season of Magical Molly, is what you're saying?
Aw.
I am saying
man.
I have blessed you with this knowledge to spare you, child.
Yes. Well, I do
Okay.
have one last thing for 4Kids.
Yep.
And it was like one of the most insane ways I've ever seen them try to censor someone's queerness.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. So, and I discovered this when playing a One Piece video game and wondered, hold on, why does the wonderful ballerina man...
No, Enclave.
Oh, yeah, it's Bon Clay, who literally does like ballet kempo and calls it Okama kempo because he's gay as all hell. He literally comes from a queer island. That's how far we go into this. But what they did when I was noticing is, why does he sound like he's from Louisiana? And so instead of just like trying to explain just like, no, he's just gay, they decided to just like say that he's just some crazy Southern man that just came out in the high seas and just loves dressing like a Swan Lake ballerina all the time. Instead of, because his martial art was literally called Okama Kempo, which just translates to gay Kempo, but instead, this one he just calls it crazy Kempo.
Oh my god. So, who did the original Sailor Moon dub?
Oh my god.
I don't know.
Because we got some kissing cousins in that one.
I believe that was Optimum, if my memory serves.
So we have confirmed that Southern and incest is more appropriate than literal queerness.
Oh, well, they actually stopped dubbing it once the original company stopped dubbing it once it started getting a little too, like, they were a little too close. Haruka and although, what did they call them in English? I can't remember.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
God, anyway, they stopped dubbing it after a while. There's only so much you can do.
So that being said, this gets us out of the 90s into the 2000s now. So now we get into where animation is exploded. Like, there's no shortcut for this. In the early 2000s or so, we ended up having Family Guy, which came out, which is a show that got so popular they canceled it twice.
Yeah.
Futurama, which is arguably is considered the smartest show, animated show out there, and that's because their entire writing staff has nothing but PhDs at least.
I don't think that's true, but they whatever they can't figure out on their own, they bring people in to, like, they actually created a whole new theorem because of the body switching episode.
Mm-hmm.
They had to figure out, I think it's called the Farnsworth equation now, and it's like if two people switch bodies, how many bodies or how many other people have to be involved to get those two people back in their original bodies or something. If you switch bodies and you can't switch back to it directly.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that pops up around this time is the influence of anime starts influencing animation in the Western side for it. So we have shows such as like
Samurai Jack.
Samurai Jack, Teen Titans, Jackie Chan Adventures is one of my faves.
Oh, yeah.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh,
Yep.
and Avatar, yes.
Yes.
So good.
And yeah, so like animation becomes basically more mainstream at that point. It's a day-to-day thing, and it doesn't really matter what age group you're at. Sometimes they just target a general audience. Some of your animation becomes weird, but a lot of it's a lot smarter than people give it credit for. Invader Sim alone was kind of
So much dark humor.
dark humor, so out there, and yeah, it's a hit. But then you have like Avatar. I could go miles and miles for Avatar.
God, Avatar has some of the best storytelling in
Honestly,
existence.
we can have a whole episode about just Avatar.
I'm in.
I'm in. I'm solid at this.
All right, cool. Also in.
I need to rewatch it. It's been a hot minute.
I'm in.
If you're wondering why it sort of seems like we're passing through the 2000s really quickly, it's because at this point it's mostly mainstream, and so
Because we're out of time.
thanks. Rightfully so. But no, without the 90s is where the big revolution happens. That's where animation changes all over the board. But in the 2000s, now that we've kind of gotten through the evolution, people know what they're looking for and where and what kind of animation they're going for. You have Avatar, for example, which has layers upon layers of themes that are in there. There's Zuko's redemption arc alone is amazing.
Oh god.
Well, and then also just learning that revenge is not the best. Like
Not
how it
always
can
the
just
answer.
yeah, it can lead you astray and stuff, and don't piss off your crazy sister. That's important.
Azula is one of my favorite characters because a lot of times, especially in this time frame, when you have action adventure shows, there's always this sort of a template. It's that person's a villain as an accident, or they have some kind of redemption, or like in Jackie Chan Adventures, the main villain for most of the series is possessed by another person and can't really make his own decisions.
Yeah.
Valmont is possessed by Shendu, the dragon.
Mhm.
For others ones for Teen Titans, there's they keep trying to some of these villains they're try to what's the word I'm looking for? Redeem them in one way or another.
Oh, Slade, man. Oh.
And then you get to Avatar when you get to Azula, and even and it's one of my favorite lines. Zuko's talking to Uncle Iroh. I know, Uncle, you want us to be together and work well as a family, and Iroh just turns, no, your sister's crazy. We need to put her down.
It's like didn't even pull a single punch at that. It's like I don't care if she's family. It's like our family sucks. That's why it's just the two of us now.
Oh, again,
And
Avatar.
sometimes you just gotta get rid of your crazy sister.
It just
God,
That's not permission for murder.
No.
So at this point, we started seeing animation get all over the place with this. Now we get into the 2010s, and this is where animation becomes where we're to current, which is where we're at right now. People start wanting to explore themes and start doing things, but you bump into stuff that didn't pop up before for one reason or another. Two big ones: JoJo's Bizarre Adventure didn't bump to claim its claim to fame until about the 2010s or so, and
Mhm.
isekais, a whole genre
Oh,
of
God.
anime that's not there, even though isekai as a story template has been around for centuries.
You tell me the first isekai.
So a person who goes to another world that's outside
No,
of
no. The first isekai story ever told.
ever.
You said centuries. I want to know.
I'm gonna have to do some backtracking, but
I'll take the case.
I will have
Did
to
Shakespeare
say
write one?
a kinetic Yankee in King Arthur's court. 1800s.
What was it?
A very quick Google search. Japanese folktales such as Urashima Taro are pointed to as sort of the first concept of the isekai.
I'm just gonna say I don't think there were trucks during that time.
You know what? Truck-kun is a new addition to an old problem. And the old problem is we need more teenagers back in time.
That's true.
How do we get all these teenagers back in time and possibly to another world? Hang on, I got a truck.
Wait,
like-
Trucks.
that sounds like a 2020 anime title.
The horse and
my
buggy
God, it
just
does.
wasn't doing it. It took a lot more to run somebody over back in the day. So
Hey, in the beginning of Neo: The World Ends With You, a truck is almost what causes the problems.
true.
Such a good game.
I mean, Yu Yu Hakusho starts with a truck.
Yeah.
I never watched Yu Yu Hakusho, actually.
So Urashima Taro was done in 1918.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. No. The earliest animation of one of these is 1918.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking up too. Looks like it goes as far back as the 18th century.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, way
Nailed
to
it.
be, Leo. You were technically correct. The best kind of correct.
But yeah, we've even seen it in Western animation, Dungeons and Dragons, when that was in the 80s as a remake. That is basically an isekai.
They fight Tiamat the first episode. I'm sorry. It's
That's-
just crazy.
That
That's
is,
my tabletop bias coming through, but
You're like-
it's a great series.
it's a great series. They are not the right level for this encounter.
Yeah, level 1 adventurers, Tiamat. Let's go. And it's not just Tiamat too. Is it Falcor? What is that dude's name? The evil guy. The evil guy's there too.
Yeah.
Falcor's from A Never-Ending Story.
You're from A Never-Ending Story.
I am?
Yeah.
Can I be the one that dies?
No.
No,
That's
not
my
right.
job.
Oh.
No, that would be the ending story.
Venger. Venger's his name. Sorry. Venger.
Oh, but anyway, so isekais have been, I'd say about 2010 or so. They've just been one after another or so.
I am such isekai trash. I love that story mode. Mostly because I want to get hit by a truck and go to another world. But, like, I don't really want to die, but if it means I get to go to another world, maybe it's worth it.
Maybe. What is a couple of good isekai?
Escaflowne is an isekai.
Escaflowne is an isekai, yeah.
Would you consider Dot Hack?
I never saw Dot Hack, actually.
They don't go to they don't get hit by a truck and go to a different world, but they do go to another world virtually.
Yeah.
Well, then would Sword Art Online be an
Yeah.
isekai?
Yeah, it would be.
100%.
I never saw it, so I was just asking. No, genuine question. I didn't know.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Kai, dude, what is the big isekais that are running around right now?
Slime's pretty good.
I got hit by a truck and now I'm in the past.
I would 100% Liz. I know you're joking. Would watch that show.
Maybe I'll make it. You don't know. Oh my
I
god,
would-
I do have a program. It's a free program, so anybody can have it. For making a visual novel. Maybe I'll make a visual novel about it.
I know that ReZero is a big one.
Yeah, ReZero's pretty big.
I recently finished one called Plunder.
Plunder's pretty good.
Isn't there one like don't date girls in a dungeon?
Is it wrong to pick
Or
up
pick up
girls in a dungeon?
dungeon?
Also, what's the deal with isekais having like an entire paragraph for their title?
So they come from light novel titles, and rather than come up with, a different way to phrase it, they just reuse the light novel title.
Oh.
You want to know something that's fun? There is an album out, actually. I think it's a Fiona Apple album. Hang on. The full album's title is When the Pawn Hits the Conflicts, He Thinks Like a King. When he knows what he knows, throws the blows when he goes to the fight, and he'll win the whole thing for he enters the ring. There's no body to batter when your mind is your might. So when you go solo, you hold your own hand and remember that depth is the greatest of heights. And if you know where you stand, then you know where to land. And if you fall, it won't matter because you'll know that you're right.
Yeah, we give Isekai a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
I feel like that deserves it too.
Yeah.
I love that personally, but if we're gonna make fun of one, we need to make fun of it
Fun of the
all,
other,
right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, what is now one of them? One of these titles, like it's a movie called "Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Orange Juice in the Hood." It's like this giant.
It's Don't Be a Menace to South Central while sipping your juice in
That's
the
the
hood.
one.
I
Yeah.
remember that movie.
Yeah.
Well, I would never.
As a really quick aside, they do have a light novel title that is claiming to be the longest light novel title so far.
Oh.
It's abbreviated to Nagai Taitoro, Toru, and it is 10 pages long, and it's just the first 10 pages of the novel is the title.
Jesus.
So, just to give you a very small, I'm going to read the first 2 sentences. My life is just as wrong as I expected after traveling to another world where I'm surrounded by cute girls in a magical high school, and I'm also the fabled hero of legend. But before I tell you that story, I have to tell you this story, and it just continues.
Oh my god.
The title is literally a story.
It literally the first couple of pages of this light novel.
They're getting out of hand.
I love it. I'm here for it. Let's 10 pages.
If
You maybe wonder why my title's so long. It's actually a funny story.
10 pages? That's beginner numbers. We got to get those numbers up.
There's
Oh,
one
that's a rookie title number.
I want to see the title card in the anime adaptation for this show.
Listen, I want one episode that's completely nothing but credits.
So it would have to be. And I want it read by William Shatner.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for that. There is at least one isekai that I know that I think it's a weird one. It has to deal with Sega Corporation, but it's I think it happens after the isekai has happened. Like, this is stuff that happens after all that isekai problems. We bump into this, and then one of the bigger things that happens at this last point is for animation is a change in how animation is done. So one of the things is a typical season episode is about 24 episodes. Okay. That's a typical season in the United States for any series. Sometimes they will either make a ton of episodes for a season or cut it in half. Like, now it's the same budget for all the same episodes. So the thing is that you can do something like tons and tons of little details and animation in there, like in Rick or Morty does, because they're only 11 episodes long. Or you can try to stretch it out as you can, which Gargoyles has had 52 episodes in one season.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my!
I do miss 24 episode seasons.
Mhm.
At least in terms of Japanese animation or anime type. Like, we're seeing 12 more and more, and that's just not enough, y'all.
Honestly, no.
I want more. Also, when they have their story arc broken up between season 1 and season 2, no. Just make more episodes. Finish the arc.
Yeah, hard to do a coherent, well thought out story in 12 episodes, I think, for anybody.
You get back here and you finish what you started.
But yeah, at this point, we're at the modern age. So, like, outside of that, one of the other interesting things is watching animated series get their own reboot from themselves. The only one that, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has had 4 different reboots at this point in time.
Dang,
If not more.
87, 2003,
2010s,
2012, and then the Rise of the Ninja Turtles that was just a couple of years ago.
Scooby-Doo is on its, 500th.
Yeah, but that's what you get with
geez.
Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo just gets their own thing.
Yeah, but Scooby-Doo's been rocking that since, the 60s?
Well, yeah, I wasn't being disparaging about it.
Yeah. And my personal favorite of all the reboots is the DuckTales reboot.
Ooh,
That thing is gold. Solid
it's
gold.
so good.
So good.
Sam Riegel did work on that.
I love what they did to Mrs. Beasley.
Mrs. Beakley? Yeah.
Oh
Beakley.
my god.
I love what she is now. Dang.
Oh man.
Take that, Mrs. Beasley, and put her in the movie with Genie and Christopher Lloyd as the magician. Oh, she would have whooped his ass.
Oh god.
It would have been fine.
And they have probably one of the most elite class of voice acting I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
What is David Tennant, his Scrooge, and it's elite going down for voice acting through the whole thing.
And that's actually a really good point, Scorpio, that you bring up, right?
Mhm.
Like, animation in the 70s, 80s, 90s, etc., was not often seen as being this sort of artistic endeavor, in that it got big name actors to cross over. Typically speaking, you got voice actors to do the work, and there was a separation between being an actor and a voice actor.
Mhm.
And I think it's only relatively recently, that we start to see that that divide shrink. Right? You've got David Tennant in DuckTales, of all things. Like,
Mhm.
that never would have happened when the original DuckTales was produced.
Oh, good lord,
Right.
no.
It should have. He's great in it, but
Oh, absolutely.
and so you start to see this divide. The Critical Role animated
Oh
series
man, Critical Role.
has so many famous actors
Yeah,
and voice
Vox Machina.
actors inside of it.
Dude, when they got Lance Reddick, I was like, that dude, I love Lance Reddick. He can read me the phone book. He's amazing.
They got a Hobbit. They got, I believe, David Tennant was also in that.
Oh, yeah, David Tennant was a dragon.
I mean, insane. These are some of the biggest names in Hollywood, the biggest named actors out there, and they're voicing a cartoon dragon, which I think is amazing.
What is it? Lin Miranda
Lin-Manuel
Lin-Manuel
Miranda.
Miranda.
Yeah, Miranda. Thanks, guys. He was voice acting in DuckTales as
Yeah.
Gizmo Duck.
Yeah. Alan
Really?
Tudyk.
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk went to Juilliard and he played a CGI animated rooster. Like,
Yeah.
We love
Juilliard.
Moana.
Yeah, in Moana.
We love Moana in this house.
No, Moana's great, but like,
Oh, absolutely.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I wasn't. Yeah.
How absurd is that? Like, dude went to the most prestigious acting school, stage acting, Hollywood, one of the biggest names in Hollywood, and he's strutting around going, "Buck, buck, 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 buck," and he's great in that film. He's amazing, but like, that never would have happened. I don't think.
Oh, absolutely not. But I think it's also because, like, a lot of times, like, animation didn't really get much, like, honestly, like, not the respect it really deserved until, like Batman animated series came out and really just showed, like, no, you can do long-term storytelling with, like, things that are drawn out and animated and all that.
Well, and even nowadays, there's still a lot of people who think that animation is cartoons for kids. Like,
that mentality is sort of dying out there. There's less.
It really is, but it's also because we're also bringing out shows like Steven Universe and Adventure Time. We're just like, no, you stick for the long run. There is a huge long-term story that is just going to be insane, and sometimes like better than like what even some live action stories can even tell.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that Adventure Time takes place in a post-apocalyptic show until like going through that series.
Right?
Another good one is Gravity Falls. There's mystery and all over in that show. Hidden codes, hidden mysteries.
Yeah, and it gets you excited about like the whole thing, but it also shows just like, it's like it's not just for kids. Like adults can really not just enjoy this, they can enjoy the stories, but also just like it doesn't even have to be like adult jokes either. Because I remember when Sam and I were watching Over the Garden Wall, and it's like honestly, no, that thing does not get really past like PG on any sort of terms, but like the weird like dark humor and spookiness of things that just happen is just so bizarre.
Over the Garden Wall's great.
Right.
If you want a good example of how voice acting and animation just sort of changes, one of the best ones out there in old school, but is probably is one of the top tier anime voice acting, Steve Bloom. Steve Bloom has been in the game since
he's so great.
What is it? He's in like I think like 10 of the top filled animes that are out there. Cowboy Bebop has Steve Bloom in it.
Samurai Champloo, Starscream, Transformers.
Oh yeah, Wolverine. He got the role for Wolverine in 3 different series. Wolverine in the X-Men and in Spider-Man, he's still Wolverine.
Roger Smith from Big O.
Oh my god, I love Big O so much.
Steve Bloom, if you're out there, I love your work.
Love your work. But when he first started, he had a pseudonym because you would separate, in order to separate him as getting jobs as a regular actor versus voice acting, he had a pseudonym. But he was so popular with that, he had a pseudonym for a pseudonym. I think he ends up having like 6 different pseudonyms.
Oh wow.
Well, that was really common. Mary Elizabeth McGlynn used to go by Melissa Williams, until like because it just like it wasn't something that you wanted to put on your resume or like on your IMDb. But then now it's like, yeah, I was in Full Metal Alchemist.
What?
Full Metal Alchemist.
I love that one so much.
And we've kind of gotten full circle of where animation becomes basically legacy. If you want a weird take of that, one of the newest animated series that are out right now is Lower Decks for Star Trek. It is considered part of that gigantic canon of Star Trek. So whatever's happening in that animated series, even though it's animated, is part of this giant universe.
Yeah.
And is there to stay. And that is basically a rough guess of how we get from all these animated series. I mean, there's a bunch of we could literally keep talking in this topic, and we've already come up with like 4 or 5 different podcast episodes coming down the pipe now.
Dude, anime alone was about to derail us.
We are all a bunch of weebs in here, and I'm not apologizing for that.
Nope, some more than others. I haven't watched a lot of anime in recent years, but I used to be quite the weeb back in the day.
There's definitely definitely different degrees of like weebyism. You know, the
But, like,
the constant like adding things to your anime list when you know you're not going to watch them all, but it's nice to have them on standby when you don't know what else to watch.
Yeah.
and you know, y'all, like, to that point, right? Like, I just want to say, love what you love. It doesn't matter if you've seen one episode of Dragon Ball Z. If you want to call yourself a fan, you're a fan. Fuck it.
Yeah.
You're
Absolutely,
in.
Life is too short to gatekeep people.
it really
100%.
is.
You know, like,
And,
you
and
never
that's-
played a Final Fantasy game. You just like the aesthetics. That's fine. You're a Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
To piggyback back Dane's powerful monologue.
Yeah.
Let's they pay your bills, pay them bitches, no mine.
Word.
Exactly.
what
I just get so tired of like just people being all gatekeepy about things. And I'm like, dude, life is too short for me to give a shit about like how much you know. I was at the card game shop a while, like this was back when I was first getting into the Final Fantasy card game, and I went into, or I was like talking to somebody, and this woman was talking about, she was like, I love Final Fantasy X. And I was like, dude, me too. It's so good. And I wanted to talk about it. And she was like, oh, I've only played the Final Fantasy card game. So she only knew like how good the cards were in that context. I'm like, good on you. I don't like,
So,
yeah.
Heck yes,
you know,
heck yes,
Oh.
brother.
oh, you into Final Fantasy? Name every Final Fantasy character then. Sid. Dang it.
I set the bar too low.
Like, oh,
But yeah, like, I mean, if however you engage with your media, just love what you love.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, as long as you're enjoying it, that's what really matters on that.
Yeah, as long as you're not
What
hurting
was it?
anyone, who gives a shit?
What is it? My me and Ben's father, I didn't find out until recently. He actually binge watches and is hardcore into Samurai Jack.
Jack.
He loves
It's so
Samurai
good.
Oh
Jack.
my god, yeah, absolutely.
That's
Oh,
so
babe.
cute.
Babe, I remember when he came over to our place and we were in the middle of like teaching my mom how to just like flip on these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the 5th season and it was just like immediately put it on. He's like, oh snap, another season, and just glued his butt to the couch and just stayed concentrated on it. It's like, oh my god, I got him
Babe.
completely trapped.
Babe,
Monday.
it's literally that meme we saw about how the girlfriend put football on for her boyfriend and then went and took a nap. And he's like, she toddlered me. We toddlered your dad.
That's okay. I went over to my nephew once. I had to do babysitting, and he's like, "Oh man, I wanted to show you something really cool, Uncle Leo." I go, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Ever, why don't you show me this?" And he started showing me Gravity Falls, but I hadn't finished the season. I go, "We're turning that off right now. I'm watching that when I get home. You can't spoil this for me. Away with you, child."
Oh my god.
Also, the thing with subs versus dubs, personally, don't care. That's
Nope.
sort of a weird
No.
elitist outfit. When I
It
watched
really
Looney
is.
Tunes back in the day, I didn't even get to watch them in English.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the first couple of Looney Tunes I watched were all in Spanish. That my dad
That's
got
cool.
from another country, from when he visited Mexico.
That is so dope.
Mhm.
I had
My
no
fir-
idea.
Yeah, my first anime that I've ever watched is Lupin the Third, and I
Oh.
watched it entirely in Spanish. I had no idea what was going on, but man, is it amazing!
Actually,
Absolutely.
I think my first introduction to Naruto was actually when I was visiting another, and this is before I even like watched it at all. And then we were just all sitting there. He just popped in his laptop. It's just like worked on all the wires. And then I was literally just watching Naruto in Spanish. It was like halfway in. It was in the tuning exams when Naruto was fighting Kiba. I was like,
Oh.
this is lit. But that also reminded me of just a dark time where just trying to pirate just animes back then, and you would find just it's in English, but for some reason it has like Arabic like subtitles under it.
Oh my god. So I'm gonna pull my old person card.
Oh my god, I want to do it
Wait.
next.
We have to at least.
I do.
Ours,
I
ours
got
might
something.
be ours might be similar, but like kids these days, I'm gonna start it out with saying that.
Oh
kids,
my god!
kids these
Yep.
days do not realize just how good they have it. When I was watching Naruto, when I was watching Bleach, when it was first airing in Japan, I would watch it on Thursday night because it came out, I think, Tuesday over there. It would be dubbed by Thursday, but we had to watch it on YouTube, 320p, cut into 5 parts.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine was similar. When I was starting to watch Naruto, my cousin and I used to download it from iMesh.
Oh.
And we always had to make sure to look for the fan dub or the fan sub, because it would be subtitled by, and like there were certain people who would subtitle it better than others, and you always found the person that you really liked, and then when that person didn't do an episode, you're like, no. And we used to wait hours to download one episode.
Yeah.
And like, so there was a meme going around that was like, people, you know, like people who do fan subs, like, and like joking, like, nobody, people who do fan subs, and it's like, blah 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 senpai or whatever, and then it has the asterisk, and then at the top of the screen is like a whole paragraph that's like, in this context senpai means this, and I didn't translate it in Japan, or I didn't translate it from Japanese because in the context it would mean blah blah blah, and like literally like they would translate it and then tell you why they left it in Japanese in the subtitles by translating it. But like the long reason. And it was like, that was how I used to watch Naruto.
Less fan subs.
I was gonna say, I remember as a kid, growing up, I was really stingy about just like trying to keep up with Spanish in the house. Because, like, you know, growing up in Idaho, it was kind of hard to find other people that speak Spanish. But I remember, like, what really helped out was when I was trying to watch animes. And again, like the Middle Eastern Arabic like subtitles, sometimes I would find the entire animes in Spanish. It's like, well, I guess this is where mommy actually trained me. She knew, like, one way or another, I would have to learn it. So then I got introduced to the first couple episodes of Lucky Star in Spanish. Honestly, it wasn't too bad.
All right, Sam.
We're gonna say Sam.
I remember when eBay became a thing, and my brother would buy VHS tapes of Dragon Ball. Little Kid Goku.
Yeah, that's
Dragon Ball. Okay. And they were not edited, obviously. So it's like there would be... How did he do it? I think the guy said he put the closed caption in English on the TV as we recorded it, and that was the dubbing or subbing. But like there'd be opening, a commercial, first couple scenes, a commercial.
Oh my God.
For those weird ass Japanese commercials. I remember there was one for a Super Mario Brothers 3, and it had a granny and balloons, and she flew off into space. And I just remember because it scared the crap out of me. And now I'm remembering it.
She's like, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
I must go. My people need me.
No, what it was, she was walking with her grandson, and her grandson let go of the balloon. So she did Mario. She kept hopping up and up and up and up and out into freaking space to get the damn balloon back.
All right.
I can't remember algebra, but I can remember that.
All right, before we close this out, as the last sort of ditch effort, I wanted some of us to just list out, you know, basically animated shows that you would love and you could just go back to over and over again, real quick. Like for myself personally, if I was to recommend any couple of episodes, I would go with Teenage Mutant
DuckTales
Ninja Turtles.
reboot.
Hell yeah, I do the
Ninja
DuckTales
Turtles.
Hold
No,
on.
so the
Let's
Ninjas-
hear
Velma.
Leah. No, what?
No!
Oh, I know. I was doing it for that reaction.
You stay
got
out.
it. Yeah.
Oh, got it. Yeah. No,
We will not tarnish our boy.
No, so I would go with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2012 version, because it's like the best mix of all the other versions together. But yeah, DuckTales reboot, I am solid with that. Anytime, anywhere, I'm in. What about you, Zombie Hand?
Full Metal Alchemist.
That's a good bet. Yeah.
Original and Brotherhood.
Agreed.
Doesn't matter which one you pick. It's still good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. And both of them do something better than the other, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. One of my friends just started watching Brotherhood. She just finished it.
Nice.
And she was saying she was like, I don't really remember much of the original, but I like Brotherhood better. And I was like, don't engage because the original Full Metal Alchemist means a lot to me. Like it was one of those that was very personal and very it just means a lot to me. And so I was like, you can't talk with your emotions right now. And Edward Elric is like one of the best fictional characters in existence, I'm done.
I'm surprised you
can't.
didn't go with like Futurama. You love that.
Oh, Futurama too. Futurama is like is like my go-to show when I need something on in the background.
Fair. All right. How about you, Dane?
I'm gonna choose 2 because this is my time and I can do that.
Hell yeah.
For the animation side of things, Cowboy Bebop, no contest.
Oh, that's a solid bet.
I still need to watch that a first time.
It's my favorite anime that has ever been made ever in the history of ever. I watch it probably about once a year, including the movie. The movie's amazing, and actually, the animation for the movie is crisp. It's just so good. I could gush on one of these podcasts about it for the whole time if I was allowed to.
Let's save it for the anime episode.
I mean, I don't want to take over the anime episode with that. The anime episode deserves to be said, but we can do a Cowboy Bebop episode, and I'm down for that.
Yes. The first 10 minutes will just be talking about the opening theme song.
Oh my god, line by line, let's go. I mean, the seatbelts. Man, okay, I got to get away from Cowboy Bebop.
The real folk blues.
Oh yeah,
so good.
Yeah. So that's my first choice for non-Western animation, and then in terms of Western animation, it's got to be Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo's the GOAT in my mind. There were kind of like 2 loves of my life that have influenced who I am as a nerd, and this is going to be my third choice out of 2 because this is my time and I can do that. And so my love of mystery stemmed from a number of books, but mostly from Scooby-Doo. And my love of Japan and their culture, and all, it started juvenilely with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then Power Rangers, and then anime, which led me to Cowboy Bebop. So that's how I'm going to tie that in. Love those things.
Personally, my favorite of the Scooby-Doo is Mystery Inc.
Oh, it's so good. It's honestly
so good.
God, I still need to see that one.
Probably the best. Like the original Where Are You? Real good. Real good. But like Mystery Inc. just does what it does very well. And there's actually like a narrative storyline to it. So if you that's your Jimmy Jams, check it out.
Actually, there is one thing I want to see on Scooby-Doo. I strongly believe that out of any of their theme songs, the one that slaps the hardest is the What's New Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Simple plan, man. They do work.
Oh, Ben, what are a couple of animation things that you would stick with?
Okay, let's see.
Feel free to choose 2 or 3 or 12.
2 or 3.
I can't stop you. This is your time.
I'll stick to like two or 3 just to keep this nice and short. Long-term one, there's gonna be an obvious one, would be One Piece. That's because it's just long-term storytelling that just keeps unfolding more and more in ways, and just honestly, and I had a Kodak moment when going to watch a movie with 2 guys where one of them was around since day 1 and the other one started it the same year and was completely caught up within months by the time the movie came out in America.
Wild.
And I was like, you know what? If you know that we're in the time of streaming, and if you're dedicated enough, go for it. And for my other one, I'm going to go to American Animations, Over the Garden Wall. Like, honestly, it is one of my just quick feel good, just go back to it. And like I said, it is just a nice remnants of just what kind of like weird, like batshit crazy dark humor can we just like sneak in here? But everything is still like kept PG, so it's just like it's like your imagination for it is just what really fuels the fire on how you can just enjoy every last bit of it.
And Sam.
See, my all-time utmost favorite comfort shows to watch is one, The Last Unicorn, and series-wise, Over the Garden Wall.
Oh yeah,
both good choices.
Good choices. Now these
Except
are
for
all
the episode where Greg dies.
These are all mostly our personal stuff. I mean, if we're talking about animation, there's tons of cool things out there. I mean, we can go all over the place with Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, and there's also like Infinity Train, which is amazing, but that is weird for it. But yeah, that's about it. Our next episode after this is going to be coming out about. Let's like do math.
Do math.
Will come out eventually. Well, I'll have to worry about that later.
Soon TM.
Soon TM. Because I've had a couple of episodes, so I have to remember where this is coming out, and it probably will be available by April or May. That being said, I'm glad you guys stuck with us for all this, and this is Gaming Theater Podcast logging out. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Woo.
Gaming Theater Podcast is hosted, created, produced, and edited by Leo Garcia, the Geek Scorpio. Our music is A Drinking Game. Stock media provided by Stormwave Audio /Pond5. Our cover art is by Adam Parker. You can find him at ParkerGFX on Twitter. If you want to send us some money to help with these episodes, you can do so at patreon.com/gamingtheaterpresents. Want to send support that doesn't hit your wallet? Please leave a review with wherever you hear your podcasts and share our podcast with your friends. It really helps out. Thank you for listening.